What's happening, guys? I'm Justin Zarr with bowhunting.com. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about deer calling, and I know some of you guys are going to be rolling your eyes in a little bit, but hear me out. Watch the whole video and just kind of listen to what I'm telling you today. We're going to be talking about the Tree Thrasher. Now, this is a call that was invented by a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Todd Pringnitz, who was one of the most serious whitetail hunters I have ever been fortunate enough to be around. You know, unfortunately, Todd passed away a few years ago, but he left this call kind of as his legacy, right? And if those of you who knew Todd or watched any of his videos over the years, you could just feel how obsessed he was with whitetail hunting. He was as ate up with it as any human being I've ever personally met, and he killed a lot of very big deer in his day. And Todd was always looking to innovate and to create products that maybe weren't for everybody. They weren't for the masses, but they were for the people who were as serious as he was about their whitetail hunting, and that's ultimately what led him to create the Tree Thrasher. So when you think about calling whitetails, right, you're gonna think the traditional things that we all do. You're gonna think rattling, grunting, maybe snort wheezing, right? Those are gonna be the main calls, maybe a can call, you know, a doe bleat, something like that. But when you think about whitetails in the wild, especially mature bucks, they make a lot of noise besides just the grunting and the growling and those types of noises. What I mean by that is when you hear a buck coming through the woods during the rut, it almost seems like they're making as much noise as they possibly can. They are not trying to be quiet. They're not trying to sneak around. It's that distinctive sound of a buck just marching through the leaves. You know, oftentimes they're coming to a scrape. They're working that scrape out. They're making an absolute ton of noise. They're putting their antlers up in the branches, they're snapping twigs, they're making rubs. They are almost purposely making sound so that other deer know that they are in the area, and in a lot of cases know that they're mad and that they're angry and that they're aggressive. And that's really what the Tree Thrasher was designed to emulate. So this is a call that is very niche, right? It does three very specific things. First and foremost, it's gonna make the sound of crunching leaves. And there's different ways that you can work this call if you wanna sound like a deer walking, if you wanna sound like a deer that's actually pawing a scrape out, but I would say that's the main use for the Tree Thrasher. It's gonna be one of the loudest noises that it makes. The second thing it's gonna do is it's got this clip on the back, which is a handy carry clip, right? You can just clip it onto your waist pouch or on your backpack, but you can see that it's got some wood underneath here, and when you snap this thing, it's designed to sound like a branch breaking. So again, imagine a deer. He's working a scrape, he's rubbing the overhanging branches, he's breaking those branches. And then the third thing is gonna be these three spikes right here, which you can rub against the bark of a tree, which we've got right here, right? And this is gonna simulate the sound of a deer making a rub. Now, again, for me, the main call that I'm gonna be most worried about is gonna be this one, right? This is gonna be the loudest call. It's gonna be the most distinct call. And with the Tree Thrasher, this isn't something you're just gonna use on its own. You don't wanna sound like a squirrel, you know, running behind somebody's tree stand. You wanna sound like a deer. So you're gonna use this along with rattling, with grunting, with snort wheezing, those types of things. In a lot of cases, you know, especially if you're calling to a deer that's maybe heard calls before or is in a pressured area or maybe just isn't in the right frame of mind and none of those other calls are working, adding that little bit of extra realism into your calling sequence can be the difference between that buck looking at you and being like, nah, I don't feel like it today, or being like, yeah, I'm ready to fight. You know, when I think about calling, I know a lot of guys that will put rattling antlers together on the end of a long rope, right? And they'll put them down on the ground and they'll shake them and they'll rattle them. And in a lot of cases, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get that ground noise. They're trying to get those leaves rustling so it sounds like two deer fighting. If you've ever heard two deer fighting each other before, it's not just antlers making noise, it's their hooves digging into the dirt, snapping sticks, you know, branches, leaves, all that type of stuff, which really is what this call is designed to do. Now, again, I know some of you guys are gonna be out there like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous, but just trust me, the guy that made this was more serious about his deer hunting than you are. I can promise you that. And if it was good enough for him to take in the field and trust his hunting and use this tool to harvest several big bucks before his untimely passing, it's definitely a tool that I think you guys should be taking into the woods as well this fall. So check it out. It is the Tree Thrasher Imitate the Wild. I'll definitely have one in my pack this fall, and hopefully it brings me some luck and you as well.